2003-IT investigation 2. This circular makes it very, very clear that forced statements, if recorded, will be looked down upon, and the officer recording such forced statements his conduct will be seriously viewed. How seriously viewed is another issue, but they say that such confession, this is the board circular, you can rely upon that because this is right from the horse's mouth, it's the Bible. Such confessions, if not based upon credible evidence, are later retracted by the concerned assessees while filing the returns of income. In these circumstances, such confessions during the course of search and seizure and survey operation do not serve any useful purpose. It is therefore advised that there should be focus and concentration on collection of evidence of income, which is what was the query raised by one of the participants, that what if there are no books of accounts, which leads to information on what has not been disclosed or is not likely to be disclosed. Similarly, while recording statements, no attempt should be made to obtain confession as to the undisclosed income. Any action on the contrary shall be viewed very seriously. Now, this is the circular of the board, which very clearly says that any kind of an admission that is being made, if it is to stand the test of appeal, it has to be based upon credible evidence. Without evidence, you cannot and you should not give any kind of an admission unless it is with a view to getting rid of the survey party. One of the last points that I would like to mention is, when can a survey be converted into a search? Before that, just a small mention. We are almost coming to the end of this session, but a very small mention. I just might, with the permission of Ketan, overshoot by about 5 minutes or so. Thank you. I would like to read out some extracts of Vijay Kumar Kesar because that has got a direct bearing upon one of the queries put forward by the participants, and that's the sole purpose why I am reading this out. Normally I avoid reading out extracts. It is like this. Survey was conducted under 133A on the business premises of a retail shop of utensils. Assessee admitted that he had not maintained any accounts after March 31, 1997. No accounts have been maintained by him. Requested that the cash found may be treated as his undisclosed income. He has made this admission. Similarly, the assessee offered the value of excess stock found in the premises during survey for taxation after subtracting the value of the closing stock. By letter dated January 31, 2000, the assessee retracted his statement made at the time of survey. Now, just one small point. Here it is by a letter dated January 31. My suggestion is that if any statement is to be retracted, please have it notarized. Please have it notarized. Better still, do it before a magistrate. That is just there is no hard and fast rule, there is no law which says so. But it is advisable to do it like this. Although in the case of Vijay Kumar Kesar, he only wrote a letter saying that I am retracting it. AO did not accept the retraction and made the additions. Commissioner Appeals held that the statement of the assessee had no evidentiary value and assessee could very well retract it, and he deleted the additions. The tribunal endorsed those findings and said that the assessee during proceedings under 143.3 had produced the books of accounts. Now, during the survey, he says I am not maintaining books of accounts. During the time of assessment proceedings, he had produced the books of accounts which were on the basis of vouchers and invoices which indicated the entries in the books of account. Now it has got a slight bearing upon the observation made by a friend over there, saying that you cannot download anything from the computer, there is nothing else available, so what is to be done? This has a slight indication on that, that look at it from the other circumstances which were on the basis of vouchers and invoices which indicated the entries in the books of account, and that the cash and stock would have been found in excess only on the basis of books of account, etc. Held, dismissing the appeal of the revenue, that the AO dismissing the appeal, that the AO disregarded the books of account produced by the assessee during assessment proceedings under 143(3) and other primary records solely on the ground that the assessee had made a confessional statement during the survey proceedings and voluntary payment of tax against the income from undisclosed sources. Primary evidence in the form of purchase bills, etc. was rejected on the ground that it was produced at the time of assessment after considerable period and retraction was more than 3.5 months. So even here we have a case where the Honorable Court at Chhattisgarh said that knocked down the additions made on the grounds that when the assessee is able to substantiate that the confessional statement that he had made or the admission statement that he had made was not correct, and I am now quantifying it with books of accounts and other necessary documentation. Which now brings me to the last issue about the when a survey can be converted into a search. There are two important judgments over here that we need to follow. That is, one is that of Vinod Goel, 252 ITR, page 29, Punjab and Haryana. I'm sorry, I'll just read that out. Citation again. Vinod Goel, 252 ITR, page 29, Punjab and Haryana. Vinod Goel, 252 ITR, page 29. This has got a bearing upon one of the questions put forward by the participants, namely, survey is over, during the assessment proceedings impounding is being done, and I mentioned that we have to find out whether that survey was a continuation or not. There has got a slight link to that particular question. I'll just read out the facts rather than narrating them. Survey was ordered by the Deputy Director under 133A, which was converted later on into a search. It is not possible to accept the argument that the search and seizure operation carried out at the premises should be quashed on the ground of lack of jurisdiction. No doubt there is a time gap of about 15 days between search and seizure operation carried out, but in view of the fact that documents recovered during the search operation established a nexus between the business carried on by RK and petitioner number 1 and 2, revenues plea that the search carried out on the premises of the petitioners was in continuation of the previous search cannot be brushed aside. So here, although there was a gap of 15 days, the court said that well, based upon the conduct, the circumstances and the facts of the case, it clearly indicates that despite there being a gap, there was a continuation of the survey operation. In his note, the additional director observed that V, who was present at the time of survey, could not produce any evidence to show that the investment was made from explained sources, and there were documents showing his very strange business links with it, and there were sufficient documents. So, the question, can a survey be converted into a search, and under what circumstances? Yes. A survey can be conducted into a search provided that there is enough incriminating material to show that. As you are aware also that when a search is being carried out, a satisfaction note is always recorded by the person who is authorizing this search. So the satisfaction note would provide an indication that yes, there was a link between the survey and the search that has been carried out. This, as I have said, is Vinod Goel, 252 ITR, page 29. By way of conclusion, which will, I think, warm the cockles of the heart of most of the chartered accountants, would be a case of Dr. Vijay Pahwa. In this case, the Calcutta High Court imposed a cost of 35,000 on the assessing officer of the survey party. And it was like this. The citation of this is, yes, 250 ITR, page 354. 250 ITR, page 354, Dr. Vijay Pahwa. 250 ITR, 354, Calcutta. Wherein the issue was misuse of the powers of the survey party. I'll read out an extract of the judgment. The short point was that a survey was carried out on Dr. Vijay Pahwa. On the very same day, summons were issued to him to produce books of accounts, etc., and come to him. Not on the same day, within half an hour of the survey, and he was put to all kinds of inconvenient questions, etc. This is what the court has to say. On 17th April 95, certain IT authorities visited the chamber of Dr. Vijay Pahwa and I survey, purporting to conduct a survey under 133A. A document has been produced in court which has been countersigned by my officer, which shows that there was no obstruction put by Dr. Pahwa or any facility withheld by him from allowing a survey to be made. What was the point that we have made? What is the purpose of the survey and what is the duty of the person who surveyed? The duty is to afford all the normal facilities that should be offered to ensure that the survey party is able to do their job in the best and shortest manner possible. There was no obstruction put by Dr. Pahwa. Officers conducted a survey. Clothed with the large powers given to them under the IT Act, they started acting in a manner people do in autocratic countries where there is no check on petty government officials. Very strong words from the court. Because the survey party, well, they are not from the clerical staff, but to call officer as a petty government official is certainly not very welcome. Apparently, they immediately served on 17th April itself summons upon Dr. Pahwa for production of documents. Such summons can be served under 131(1) only. There was a question somewhere from there that 131 is. Such summons can be served under 131(1) only in case of obstruction by the person concerned or when some sort of hindrance is put up by him. The summons was immediately executed on the same day within 30 minutes or so. All the books of Dr. Pahwa reached the IT office. Immediately thereafter, those books were impounded at the office of the IT authorities. All this happened on 17th April 1995. Now, this has got a direct bearing to the question of one of the participants, that what if the books are impounded later on? Now, this has a bearing. Summons was issued and the books were impounded. All the books reached IT office. Immediately thereafter, those books were impounded at the office of IT authorities. All this happened on 17th April 1995. Dr. Pahwa's assessments are complete and up to date. There is no pending adjudication where the summoning power can be issued at all. In any case, how can summons be issued for production on the same day and the books instantaneously impounded? That's a question that has been raised. Now, under the garb of conducting a simple survey, books of Dr. Pahwa were seized without any apparent authority. ITOs and authorities do not have any power to interrupt the ordinary peaceful citizens of the country in any manner they like by utilizing the large powers given to them without keeping strictly within four corners of these large powers. Since the powers vested are large, even a millimeter of departure must be immediately shorn off by the impartial courts if this country is to continue to remain a free one. In the instant case, there has not been merely 1 millimeter but of several kilometers from within the permitted powers. Mr. Samir Mukhopadhyay, who was leader of the operation in the above apparently illegal procedure and high-handed actions, will personally pay today's costs to the writ petitioner assessed at Rs 35,000, irrespective of the subsequent result of the writ. Means irrespective of whether the additions have been made or not, you have acted in a high-handed manner by virtually converting your survey into a search. You have impounded, you have transgressed the four corners of the law, gone far beyond it by several kilometers, and consequently, costs of rupees 35,000 were awarded. And I have no doubt that this Samir Mukhopadhyay must have been relegated to some obscure post in the income tax department, because this forms a part of his confidential role. And when it's coming from the High Court's observations, it is very apparent that this misbehavior is writ large. So, to answer the last question, whether a survey can be conducted, can be converted into a search, the answer is yes, of course it can be conducted, provided there is enough material to show that yes, there is a need to impound certain books of accounts or to receive certain documents only then and then only, because a survey party does not have the authority to take away or impound any books of accounts, subject to those limitations of 15 days and recording in writing. Apart from that, they cannot do so. If a survey has to be converted into a search, there has to be very, very strong reasons for doing so. We have seen two judgments, one in favor, one which supports the survey that was conducted into a search, and the last one in the case of Dr. Vijay Pahwa, where the court has slammed the conduct of the departmental authorities in no uncertain manner, because they have violated the provisions of the law. This last judgment can definitely be made use of in those cases where it is felt that the officers of the department are behaving in a very high-handed fashion. They usually behave in a high-handed fashion, but if it goes beyond reasonable limits of high-handedness, then this judgment can definitely be made use of.
So, during survey, a lot of incriminating document is found. So, on the same day also, whether authorization can be taken and the survey can be converted into search.
The question is that at times during the course of survey, incriminating documents have been found. And the question is whether on the same day it can be converted into a search. Yes, it can be. There is no time limit. We have seen actually in the case of Vijay Goel that there was a gap of 15 days. But the court said that no, there is enough nexus between the two actions, and consequently they upheld that conversion of survey into a search.
One more thing, as you rightly said, that a retraction statement should be before the magistrate. It is advisable during if it is taken under the survey, but under search, because it is taken on oath, it is a must that you should retract by a statement before magistrate.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. As I said, there is no hard and fast rule that you have to go to a magistrate. As we have seen, the court in the case of Kesar, Chhattisgarh High Court, that on a simple letter, it was done. But this is by way of abundant caution, I would say.
But because I am saying such statement is taken on oath,
absolutely
so
right.
It is must that you should retract by a statement before magistrate.
Absolutely right. I am raising the bar, and I am saying that the same standard should be applied also for survey proceedings also, because we do not want later on anybody to say that some chartered accountant has advised you and that's why you are retracting it. When any retraction is made, you normally give the circumstances under which the original statement was made and why you are retracting it. The most common being that I have been pressurized to do so. Unfortunately, the tax authorities say that if you are authorized to do so, have you complained to the commissioner or to the chief commissioner? But that is going into the realms of theory. Practically, very practically, not many people complain or they would like to complain. So that is merely taking advantage of my own either ignorance or my submissiveness. That is not permissible, and consequently, if a statement is, if the retraction is recorded before the magistrate, that would carry a lot of weight. Any other question? Okay, friends, thank you very, very much indeed for a very good question.
I'm sure that many of the questions might have already been answered. If there are any left, maybe if we one or two questions, if there are left, you can just ask, because I need to.
Yes, please.
So at what time can the statement be recorded?
I'm sorry?
At what time the statements can be recorded? Can I say I can come the next day to your office and record?
A very important question, a very good question. At what time can a statement be recorded? Is that the...
Yes.
There is no prohibition of time. A statement can be recorded at any point of time, but one has to keep in mind that when a statement is recorded as midnight, there is a judgment of the Gujarat High Court, which I am sure Sunil Bhai will be making, will be referring to. When a statement is recorded at midnight, the presumption is that it is put under, that the statement has been recorded under coercion. So, that statement recorded at midnight will not carry that much weight as a statement which is recorded, I would say, in the normal hours. Now, what is normal hours cannot be quantified, but I would mean that when a person is generally alert and not into the late hours of the evening or night. So there is no ideal time for recording any question, any statement. Yes, please continue.
Sir, can the assessee say that I am not in the right state of mind to give a statement right now and go the next day and record his statements?
Sorry?
Can the assessee plead that he is not in the right state of mind to give a statement and go give the statement next day after
Yes.
the...
Yes, he can certainly do so. It is well within his right to say. It is well within his right to say that I am not feeling well. I have got high BP, I cannot offer you a statement, but at the same time, please make a note, sir, that I am not running away from your questions. When I am feeling better, I will certainly make statements. You can also say that I will make the statement if you are not very sure, that I am not very sure about this and I can give you an authoritative statement only after talking to my chartered accountant. You can definitely say this.
That human rights violation, Patna High Court judgment also. This statement was recorded at late night and they complained and it was accepted that it cannot.
There are quite a few judgments, including one of the latest ones is that of the Gujarat High Court. But there are lots of judgments of the High Courts and of the tribunals which say that if the statements have been recorded in circumstances which are doubtful meaning late into the night, or if the party is not well, or he is obviously a blood pressure patient or a heart patient, then those kinds of statements, if made use of during the assessment proceedings on which additions have been based, are liable to be struck.
Whether SSC can insist that his counsel is present during the proceedings?
Now that is a rather controversial thing. The question is, friends, whether a counsel's presence is required. There is no hard and fast rule. The rule that is laid down is that the counsel should not be made use of to prompt an answer or to get an answer. That brings me to one interesting episode of a very senior chartered accountant. He was narrating this to me a couple of weeks ago, that when he was actively into the field, his client was called for recording of the statement by one assessing officer. At that point of time, we were on chairs like these, which have got handles on the side. Now the chartered accountant said that whilst the statement was being recorded, his hand accidentally slipped like this, and the other fellow was nudged. The assessing officer was furious. He said, "You are prompting to him. You please leave the room immediately." The chartered accountant, who is now in his late 80s, was telling me that I protested, but then he did not believe. He was very furious. He said that, "No, you go away. I don't want you in this room. Let him only answer. You go away. I don't want you." So the chartered accountant said that, "Okay, I am going, but never in my life I am going to appear before you, because you are not the kind of person that who deserves my presence." And he left. Years later, this senior chartered accountant was at Ahmedabad. He's got his family home over there, and he had gone to visit somebody in the Aikar Bhavan. Suddenly, one peon comes running and says, "कि आपको साहब ने बुलाया है." तो साहब कौन? Said, "वो कमिश्नर साहब ने बुलाया है." So he said that okay. He went inside, and lo and behold, it was the same assessing officer who has now become the commissioner who has called him. And still there was very lot of frostiness. That friendship was not there, because the chartered accountant being a senior man, was humiliated by the approach and attitude of this person. During that course of time, when he said that you must have a cup of tea, which he accepted, there was a phone call, and from the phone call he could make out that this commissioner was a bridge player, and they were one player short. So he was very much anxious. Now this chartered accountant is an excellent bridge player. He plays in tournaments also. So he overheard that. Now bridge player, they have got an inbuilt antenna of bondage. So all that humiliation was thrown aside.